Even while in the glory of the Transfiguration, Jesus was discussing with Moses and Elijah his forthcoming exodus from this world through his death and resurrection. He knew that he would have to endure his sufferings before he could enter into his glory, and the disciples needed to understand this if they were to follow him through self-denial and suffering on their journey into God's glory. Matthew 16 goes on and says, "Then Jesus said to his disciples, 'If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul?'" Mark 8:34, which is a parallel account in Mark's Gospel about this, says that before he said those words, he gathered a crowd of people before him. It says, when he had called the people to himself with his disciples also. You see, he challenged the crowd, many of whom were there for the pagan ceremonies. And he said to them, "Deny yourselves, take up your cross and follow me. What gain is it for a person to have the whole world and lose his soul? Don't follow this stuff. There's no meaning, no purpose, no significance, no value in all of this. You'll just end up empty, broken and lost. Anyone," he said, "who would save his life will lose it. But if you will give your life to me, you will gain real life and eternal glory. What can you give in exchange for your soul? Trust your soul to me and give your life to others like I'm doing. And then your soul will be saved." See, Jesus was going to give his life, lay down his life and deny himself. And in that he's setting the example to us. He says, just like I'm going to give my life, follow me, and then you will find true life. I think the disciples, as Jesus was proclaiming this to the crowd, I think the disciples were thinking, shh, shh, shh. Keep it quiet, Jesus. You're going to get us into trouble. This is embarrassing. Proclaiming your word to these heathen could get us into trouble. So Jesus then turned to his disciples and said in verse 27, "If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this sinful and adulterous generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory with his Father's angels." He was saying, don't be afraid to speak out and declare my name. If you follow me, you must confess me publicly in a heathen world. If you deny yourself, and you're not ashamed to speak my name now, and if you're prepared to suffer with me, you will also share in my glory. When I set up my kingdom, my glorious kingdom, I will then reward you openly. Then, when he said in Matthew 16:28, "Assuredly I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom," he was saying some among them would get a glimpse of his glory on the Mount of Transfiguration, which happened a week later. But before the glory was the suffering of the cross. He was telling his disciples to follow him as he was heading for Jerusalem to complete his work. He knew he must be arrested, crucified, and on the third day rise again. But before going to the cross, he had to bring his disciples here to prepare them for the coming time ahead of suffering with Jesus, and then for their mission to the world that would happen after his death and resurrection. By setting the example, by declaring his name with passion on the devil's doorstep to the very people who needed it most, Jesus was giving a pattern for them, an example for them, and he was building a passion into his disciples for them not to be ashamed to be known as his followers. That became important later as they were commissioned to go into a pagan world to preach Christ. They stood in front of kings and priests in temples, palaces, theaters and arenas, and then with calmness and confidence and with passion they spoke his words. May God give us the grace and the passion to do no less.
heaven and gives life to the world.
Give us this bread!
Give us this bread! I am the bread of life! Those who come to me will never be hungry. Those who believe in me will never be thirsty. Now I told you that you have seen me, but will not believe. Everyone whom my Father gives me will come to me. I will never turn away anyone who comes to me, because I have come down from heaven to do not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And it is the will of him who sent me that I should not lose any of all those he has given me, but that I should raise them all to life on the last day. For what my Father wants is that all who see the Son and believe in him should have eternal life. And I will raise them to life on the last day.